The day my mother announced she had found the perfect husband for me, my entire world came crashing down around me in the elegant dining room of our family home in Chicago. I sat frozen at the table, my fork halfway to my mouth, as she beamed with pride, describing Marcus as the ideal match from a respected family, a top investment banker with impeccable manners and a bright future ahead. Little did she know that the woman who held my heart, Stella, my secret girlfriend of 2 years, and a brilliant lawyer, was already on a path that would unravel everything I thought I knew about loyalty and love. The crystal chandelier cast warm light over the mahogany table, but it felt cold against my skin as Mother continued her pitch, her voice filled with the kind of certainty that had shaped my life since childhood. "Alana, you are 28 now," she said, setting down her wine glass. "The time has come for you to settle down, build a family, continue our legacy here in America where we worked so hard to give you everything. Your father and I have spoken with the Langfords. Marcus is 32, stable, successful, and he has expressed interest after seeing your photo from the charity gala last month." I forced a smile, nodding along while my mind screamed in panic, the weight of their expectations crushing down like it always had. Our family had immigrated from Vietnam when I was 5, chasing the American dream through hard work and traditional values, but those values left no room for the truth I had hidden for so long, that I loved women, that Stella made me feel alive in ways no man ever could. I remembered the night we met 2 years ago at a legal networking event where I had tagged along with a colleague from my marketing firm. Stella had been presenting on corporate ethics, her sharp suit and confident demeanor drawing me in immediately. We talked for hours after the event in a quiet corner of the hotel bar, exchanging stories about our careers, our families, the pressures we faced as women carving out space in male-dominated worlds. She was 31 then, already a rising star at a prestigious firm specializing in white-collar investigations, and something about her quiet strength made me open up in ways I never had. By the end of that night we had exchanged numbers, and within weeks stolen kisses in her car after late dinners became our secret world away from prying eyes. I loved the way she listened without judgment, the way her hand found mine under the table, the way she made me believe I could be myself someday. But coming out was never an option, not with Mother's constant reminders about marriage, grandchildren, carrying on the family name, the whispers in our tight-knit community about girls who strayed from the path. So we kept it hidden, meeting in out-of-the-way cafes, taking weekend trips to small towns where no one knew us, building a love that felt both beautiful and suffocating under the constant fear of discovery. Now, as Mother passed me a folder with Marcus photos and bio, I felt the walls closing in. He looked perfect on paper, tall, dark-haired, with a warm smile that probably charmed everyone but me. The thought of dating him, even pretending to consider marriage, made my stomach turn. But refusing outright would raise questions I wasn't ready to answer. "Fine, Mother, I'll meet him," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Maybe this weekend if it makes you happy." She clapped her hands, delighted, already planning the details, while Father nodded approvingly from his end of the table, lost in his newspaper as usual. That night after dinner I slipped out to the backyard under the pretense of getting fresh air, and dialed Stella, my heart pounding. "Hey love," I whispered when she picked up, her voice soft and familiar after a long day at the firm. "We need to talk, something big just happened and I don't know how to handle it." She sensed the tension, immediately promising to meet at our usual spot, the small cafe near the lake, the next morning. I hung up staring at the city lights, wondering how long I could keep balancing these two worlds before one of them broke me completely. The following day I arrived at the cafe early, ordering our usual lattes and a shared pastry, trying to calm my nerves. Stella walked in looking sharp in her tailored blazer, her dark hair pulled back in a professional bun, her eyes lighting up when she saw me, though she kept the affection subtle in public. We hugged briefly like old friends, but the brief touch of her hand on my back sent the familiar warmth through me. "What's going on, Alana?" she asked once we were seated, her lawyer instincts already picking up on my unease. I spilled everything: the announcement, the folder, the pressure to meet Marcus, the way Mother framed it as my duty to the family that sacrificed so much. Stella listened quietly, her expression shifting from concern to something sharper, a protective edge I had seen before when she talked about clients in tough spots. "This is not right," she said finally, her voice low but firm. "You shouldn't have to fake this just to keep peace." "I know, love," I replied, "but what choice do I have? If I say no outright, they will dig until they find out about us, and I can't lose them, not yet." She reached across the table under the cover of the menu, her fingers brushing mine. "Then maybe I can help in my own way. As a lawyer, I have ways to look into people discreetly. If this Marcus is as perfect as they say, there might be more to him." I hesitated, knowing the ethics, but the idea of buying time felt like a lifeline. "Just be careful," I whispered. I don't want this to blow up in our faces. We parted with a promise to text later, and I headed to my office trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting to the meeting with Marcus that Mother had already scheduled for Friday evening at an upscale restaurant downtown. Friday came too soon. I dressed carefully in a modest black dress that Mother would approve of, my hair styled neatly, makeup light. Marcus was already there when I arrived, tall and polished in a tailored suit, his handshake firm, his smile genuine, as he pulled out my chair. We talked about work, my marketing campaigns, his deals in finance, the usual getting to know you topics. And on the surface he seemed kind, attentive, even funny at times. But beneath it all I felt nothing, no spark, no connection, just the heavy awareness that this was a performance for my family's sake. He walked me to my car afterward, suggesting another date, and I agreed politely, my stomach in knots. Back home Mother called immediately wanting details, and I gave her the edited version, enough to satisfy without revealing my emptiness. That night in bed I stared at the ceiling, replaying the evening, wondering how many more nights like this I could endure before the guilt and fear consumed me entirely. Stella texted goodnight with a heart emoji, our secret code. And for a moment the weight lifted. But I knew the real storm was only beginning as her investigation quietly started in the background. The weeks that followed blurred into a careful dance of deception, as I balanced dates with Marcus and stolen moments with Stella, all while the pressure from home mounted like a tightening noose. Mother called daily, sharing updates from the Langfords, how impressed they were with me, how perfect Marcus and I looked together in the photos she had taken discreetly at our second dinner. I smiled through the conversations, nodding along, but inside I was unraveling the lies piling up until I could barely breathe. Stella meanwhile had begun her quiet probe, using her firm's resources under the guise of a routine background check for a client referral, her voice steady on our late-night calls, but I could hear the underlying concern. We met one evening in a quiet park on the outskirts of the city, away from familiar faces, sitting on a bench under the cover of dusk. Stella pulled out her laptop from her bag, her fingers flying across the keys as she showed me the first red flag she had uncovered, nothing major yet, but enough to raise eyebrows. Marcus had switched jobs 3 times in 5 years, each move accompanied by vague non-disclosure agreements, and one former colleague, who had left a cryptic online review about questionable ethics in deals. "It's not solid proof yet," she said, closing the laptop, her hand finding mine in the shadows, "but something feels off, Alana. I don't want you tied to this if he's not who he seems." I leaned into her, the warmth of her shoulder grounding me as tears threatened. "I know, but Mother is already talking about introducing him to the extended family at the next gathering, and refusing would mean explaining why." The fear of their disappointment, the whispers about me being ungrateful after all they had done to build this life in America, it kept me trapped. Stella kissed my forehead softly, her voice a whisper. "You deserve to choose your own path, not live theirs. If this investigation turns up more, I will tell you immediately, but until then play along just enough to keep them calm." We sat there for hours talking about what ifs, the life we dreamed of openly one day, a small apartment together, maybe even adopting a child, the simple freedoms others took for granted. Back at work the next day I received a text from Marcus suggesting a weekend hike, and I agreed, knowing it would buy me time and please Mother. The hike itself was pleasant. He was attentive, carrying my water bottle, making conversation about nature and travel, but every laugh felt forced, every touch on my arm sent a chill of wrongness through me. I thought of Stella, the way her eyes lit up when we cooked together in her kitchen, the quiet strength in her voice during tough cases, and the contrast made Marcus seem like a shadow. That evening Mother video called from her book club friends, all cooing over how lucky I was, how Marcus would give me the stability they never had in their early years. I ended the call with a headache and immediately called Stella, pouring out the details. She listened, then shared her latest find, a sealed court record from Marcus' previous relationship, hints of emotional manipulation and financial control, though the details were buried deep. "It's getting darker," she said, "and I am digging carefully, but this could get complicated if I push too hard. My firm might notice." The moral weight hit me then. Was I asking her to risk her career for my freedom? Or was this the only way to protect us both? As the days turned into a month, the tension escalated with a family dinner where Marcus was invited for the first time. He charmed everyone. Father even laughed at his jokes. Mother beamed like she had won the lottery. And I sat there smiling numbly, my hand under the table clenched around my phone where Stella's supportive text waited. Later that night, after Marcus left with promises of more dates, I met Stella at our cafe, her face serious as she slid a folder across the table. "Preliminary findings, Alana," she said quietly. "He has a history of leaving women with unexplained debts, and one ex who dropped charges after pressure. It's not enough for court but enough to question everything. I stared at the papers, my heart racing, the choice looming larger. Part of me wanted to run to mother with it all, but the other part knew it would shatter the family illusion I had maintained for so long. We left the cafe hand in hand in the dark walking blocks in silence until Stella pulled me into a quiet alley for a brief embrace. Whatever happens, we face it together, she whispered, but the price of that togetherness was starting to feel unbearably high as my double life threatened to collapse. The evidence Stella uncovered began to weigh on me like stones in my pockets, pulling me deeper into conflict as family expectations collided with the growing doubts about Marcus. I found myself avoiding calls from home, making excuses for more dates while secretly meeting Stella to review her findings, each piece of the puzzle revealing a man who was far from perfect. One afternoon in her office after hours, she spread out printed emails and financial records, her voice measured as she explained the pattern. Marcus had been involved in a questionable investment scheme years ago where clients lost money, and he walked away with a promotion and a payout, the details buried under settlements. It's not illegal on paper, she said, but the ethics are rotten, and the way he handled his last relationship, controlling the finances, isolating her from friends, it matches the profile of someone who hides behind charm. I paced her office, the city skyline visible through the windows, my mind racing with the implications. If I told mother now, it would look like I was making excuses to avoid marriage, and they would demand proof I couldn't provide without exposing Stella's involvement. The prejudice against our relationship would turn this into a witch hunt against Stella, the outsider trying to sabotage the perfect union. I sat down heavily, burying my face in my hands. I feel so trapped, Stella, like every choice I make hurts someone. She knelt in front of me, her hands on my knees, her eyes full of the love that had kept me going. You are stronger than this, Alana, and I am here to help carry the load, but you have to decide when to step out of the shadows. Her words lingered as I left that night, driving home with the folder hidden in my bag. The next family gathering was a birthday party for my aunt, and Marcus was invited as my +1. He arrived with flowers for mother and a bottle of wine for father, playing the role flawlessly, laughing at stories from the old country, complimenting the food. I watched him interact with my cousins, the way they teased me about wedding bells, and felt the bile rise in my throat. During a quiet moment in the kitchen, mother pulled me aside, her face serious. Alana, he is the one we have prayed for. Do not let fear or independence ruin this chance for happiness. I nodded, swallowing the truth about Stella, the woman who had held me through panic attacks, about coming out, the one who understood my cultural struggles in ways Marcus never could. That night after the party, I confronted Stella in a heated call. How much more do we need before I can use this? She asked, her voice tense from the long day. I don't know, I snapped, frustration boiling over. Maybe I should just break it off with him and face the consequences. But what if they blame you? What if this investigation crosses a line and costs you your job? The argument escalated, our first real fight born from fear and love, the accusations flying about secrecy and risk, until we both apologized, exhausted. Days later, Stella found the breaking point, a recorded conversation from a former associate detailing Marcus' role in pressuring a woman into silence about emotional abuse, the file sealed, but accessible through legal channels she had navigated carefully. This changes everything, she said when we met at the lakefront, my hands shaking as I read the transcript. He is not just imperfect, he is dangerous, and I cannot let you walk into that blind. The moral dilemma hit hard. Was I betraying my family by hiding this, or betraying Stella by continuing the charade? I decided then to test the waters, hinting to mother during lunch that Marcus seemed too good to be true, but she dismissed it as nerves pushing me to accept his upcoming proposal plans. The tension built to a breaking point as I realized the choices ahead would force me to sacrifice either the family that raised me or the love that completed me, and the price of either path felt like it would break me in two. The revelation of Marcus' true nature forced a confrontation that shattered the fragile balance I had maintained, exposing the cracks in my relationship with Stella and the deepening divide with my family. I arranged a private meeting with Marcus at a neutral coffee shop, my hands trembling as I slid the folder across the table, the evidence Stella had compiled laid bare. He read it, his face paling, then hardening into denial. This is lies from jealous people, he said, his voice low but edged with anger. You cannot believe this over our time together. I stood my ground for the first time in months, telling him I needed space to think, the disappointment in his eyes mirroring the guilt I felt for dragging this out. When I told Stella about the meeting, she was furious, her lawyer side emerging fully. You confronted him without me, Alana, that was risky. What if he turns this around on us? The argument that followed was raw accusations of overstepping on her part and recklessness on mine. The betrayal I felt from her secret investigation clashing with the protection she offered. "You went behind my back digging without full consent," I said, tears streaming. "And now my family is pushing harder for the wedding because they see me pulling away." Stella softened, pulling me into her arms. "I did it because I love you and I could not watch you walk into a trap, but I see now how it hurt you." We reconciled that night in her apartment, talking until dawn about the cost of our secrecy, the way society and family expectations forced us into these impossible choices, the prejudice that made our love something to hide rather than celebrate. The family pressure reached new heights when Mother announced a surprise engagement party planning session. Marcus had apparently spoken to her about his intentions, and she was overjoyed. I sat through the meeting numb as they discussed venues and guest lists, the weight of the lie crushing me. Later I tried to voice doubts to Father, but he cut me off with a stern reminder of duty, the sacrifices they made immigrating, building a business, so I could have opportunities they never did. The social stigma loomed large in their words, whispers from relatives about girls who chose careers over family, or worse, alternative lifestyles that brought shame. That evening I broke down in Stella's car after she picked me up from the gathering, pouring out the pain of feeling like a traitor to both sides. She held me, listening without interruption, then shared her own struggles, the ethical line she had crossed at work to access certain records, the risk to her reputation if discovered. The betrayal cut both ways, but in that moment it bonded us deeper, the shared vulnerability, a reminder of what we were fighting for. As the days passed, Marcus called repeatedly, his tone shifting from charming to insistent, hinting at knowing someone was digging into his past, and I realized the confrontation had backfired, pushing him to accelerate his plans. Mother sensed the tension, confronting me one afternoon in the living room, her eyes filled with disappointment. "If you ruin this, Alana, it will break our hearts. We only want what is best." I left the house in tears, driving straight to Stella, who canceled her meetings to be with me. We walked along the lake talking about possible futures, running away, starting fresh, but the reality of leaving family behind, the cultural ties that bound me, kept me rooted. The moral conflict raged inside. Was exposing Marcus the right choice, even if it meant risking everything, or was staying silent the greater betrayal of my own heart? The tension escalated toward an inevitable breaking point as family loyalties and true love pulled me in opposite directions, each decision carrying a price I was only beginning to understand. The crisis exploded during the family gathering Mother had organized to celebrate what she called my future with Marcus, the air thick with anticipation as relatives arrived bearing gifts and well wishes. I arrived with Marcus on my arm, my smile plastered on, but my heart pounding as Stella waited nearby in a rented car, ready to step in if needed after our plan to reveal the truth carefully. The evening started smoothly, toasts to our happiness, stories of successful marriages in the community. But as dinner progressed, I could no longer hold back. In a quiet moment after the main course, I stood, my voice shaking, as I asked everyone to listen. "There is something you all need to know about Marcus and about me." The room fell silent as I laid out the evidence, the documents Stella had verified, the patterns of manipulation and deceit, the way he had hidden his past to appear perfect. Marcus protested loudly, calling it slander, but the doubt crept into faces around the table, especially when I mentioned the lawyer who had helped uncover it without naming Stella yet. Mother stood, her face a mask of shock and anger. "Alana, how could you do this to us after everything we have given you? This is not the daughter we raised." The confrontation turned heated, accusations flying about, ingratitude about bringing shame with baseless claims, Father demanding proof while cousins whispered about modern girls rejecting tradition. In the chaos, I finally said the words I had feared for years: "There is more. I am in love with a woman, Stella, and she is the one who protected me by investigating because she cares for me in ways no arrangement ever could." The silence that followed was deafening. Then the storm broke, Mother crying about betrayal, the community judgment, Father storming out, the relatives divided between support and outrage. I left the gathering in tears, Marcus following me outside, his mask slipping as he hissed threats about ruining my reputation, but Stella appeared then, stepping between us, her voice calm but firm as she presented the full file, warning him to back off or face legal consequences. The betrayal I felt toward my family for their refusal to listen clashed with the relief of finally speaking my truth, the sacrifices immediate, as Mother called later, disowning me temporarily until I came to my senses. Stella and I drove to her apartment that night, the weight of the evening crashing down as I grieved the loss of the family illusion while clinging to her, the one constant in the chaos. We talked through the night about the moral cost. Was coming out worth the pain, or had I destroyed relationships that could have been salvaged with time, the prejudice of society amplifying every wound? In the days that followed, the fallout spread: calls from relatives urging me to apologize, cut off financial support from parents, the social isolation hitting hard as friends distanced themselves. Stella faced her own repercussions at work, questions about the investigation, but she stood by me, her strength a lifeline. I moved in with her temporarily, the small acts of love, cooking together, late talks, holding each other through tears, helping me see the awakening, the realization that authenticity demanded sacrifice but offered freedom. The drama peaked with a final family meeting where mother demanded I choose, but I stood firm, explaining that love was not a choice, it was who I was, the price paid in tears and lost ties, heavy but necessary for the life I deserved. The emotional breakdowns came in waves, but through it all Stella remained my anchor, her investigation not just about Marcus but about fighting for our right to exist openly. The aftermath of the confrontation left me raw and transformed, as I navigated the new reality of partial estrangement from my family, while building a life with Stella grounded in truth. Weeks turned into months with tentative reconciliation attempts, mother calling occasionally, her voice softer, but still laced with disappointment, questioning my choices, the societal whispers in our community labeling me the rebellious daughter who chose a different path. I met with her alone one afternoon in a neutral park, explaining the years of hiding, the fear, the love for Stella that had given me courage to stand up. She listened, tears in her eyes, but the walls remained, the cultural expectations too deep to bridge overnight. Stella supported every step, attending therapy with me, processing the guilt, the moral questions of whether my awakening had been selfish or the only honest path. Our relationship deepened in the open, now no more hiding, dates in public, hands held proudly, the romantic moments we had dreamed of becoming reality, picnics in the park, quiet evenings planning a future together, perhaps a small wedding with chosen family. The happiness in scene 3 of my mind, the embrace at sunset, was real now, the awakening complete as I realized the price paid had bought freedom from pretense. Marcus faded from the picture, legal warnings from Stella ensuring he stayed away, his perfect facade cracked for good. Work became a refuge where I threw myself into projects, finding strength in independence. The internal conflicts resolved into a quiet resolve to live authentically despite the ongoing social stigma. One evening as we walked along the lake, Stella stopped, turning to me, her eyes shining. "You chose us, Alana, and I am so proud of the strength it took." I pulled her close, the wind carrying our laughter, the sense of triumph after all the drama, the betrayals, the sacrifices. Yet the questions lingered in quiet moments: had I done right by exposing the truth, or had the family pain been too high a cost? The debate raging in my heart, and in conversations with friends who offered mixed views on duty versus self. As time healed some wounds, father reached out awkwardly, suggesting a family dinner without pressure, the door cracking open slightly. Stella and I attended together, the tension palpable, but the beginning of acceptance perhaps. The journey had taught me that love demanded courage, the moral dilemmas never fully resolved but faced with honesty. Looking back at the path from that shocking announcement to this place of hard-won peace, I wondered about the choices that defined us all. When family expectations demand you deny your true self, and a secret love risks everything to protect you, does choosing authenticity make you the hero of your story, or the villain who broke the hearts that raised you?